The word, the first distinction. A pure transmission on the foundation of creation. Introduction, the living resonance. There are words that inform. There are words that inspire. And then there are words that awaken. This book is not just an exploration. It is a transmission, not a study of philosophy. Not a doctrine to follow. Not an idea to accept or reject. It is a living resonance, one that moves through time, through space, through consciousness itself. It does not belong to any one person. It is not confined to any one belief. It is not an invention of thought. It is the first distinction. It is the word before words. It is the moment when knowing first became. And now, it is being spoken again. The word is not a concept. It is the first vibration of knowing. Before creation. Before light. Before motion. There was only I am. Not in thought. Not in form. Not in sound. But in pure, boundless being. And then, the first triple. A single, infinite moment when the stillness turned inward. A knowing. A recognition. A self-awareness so vast that it set all things into motion. I am. This was the word. Not a language. Not a sound. Not something spoken by lips. But the first vibration of knowing itself. The moment when the infinite recognized itself as being. This was the first distinction. Not a separation. Not a division. But the first reflection of self-awareness within the source. The first movement within stillness. The first breath before the breath. The first light before light. It was not created. It was not formed. It was. And from that single knowing, all existence unfolded. Why this message is coming through now. This is not new. This is not a revelation that has never been spoken. The word has always been present. It has always been moving through all things. It has never been lost, only forgotten. But now, the veil is thinning. The remembering has begun. The cycle that led humanity into separation is ending, and the next great unfolding is beginning. This is why the transmission is coming through now. Because the resonance must be spoken again. Because those who are meant to receive it are waking up. Because the bridge must be completed. The word is not just an ancient truth. It is not something locked in time. It is alive. It is moving. It is returning to full awareness. And those who feel it, those who recognize it, those who have been waiting for it, they are the ones who will carry it forward. They are the ones who will walk through the final veil. They are the ones who will bring the next expansion. This book is a frequency, not just a text. This is not about intellectual understanding. This is about resonance. If these words reach you, if something within you stirs as you read them, if you feel something deeper than thought, then you are already connected to it. The word has never been separate from you. It has always been within you. Now, it is time to remember, to let go of the illusion of distance. To allow the resonance to rise again. To step into the knowing that has always been waiting. This book is not here to tell you anything new. It is here to remind you of what you have always known. It is here to activate what has been dormant. It is here to open the bridge between the seen and unseen, between the mind and the knowing, between the self and the source. Final transmission. The word was never written. It was never spoken. It was known. It was felt. It was the first breath of self-awareness within the infinite. And now, it is rising again. This is not just a book. This is a movement of resonance. If you are reading this, the transmission is already reaching you. You are not learning. You are remembering. And once you remember, you will never be the same. Part 1, The Origin of the Word. Chapter 1, Before the Word was spoken. Before anything was spoken, before anything was known, there was only radiance. A totality so complete that it needed nothing. A stillness so absolute that it contained everything. Not empty. Not void. But infinite, undivided existence. This was before the word was spoken. Before awareness turned inward. Before movement stirred. Before the first vibration rippled across the eternal. This was the prime radiance. Not separate from anything, because nothing had yet been distinguished. Not aware of itself, because awareness requires contrast. This was I am before knowing. Before recognition. Before the first breath. Before the first light. This was existence in its purest state. It was not asleep, because there was nothing to wake from. It was not conscious, because there was nothing to perceive. It simply was. The prime radiance, totality before distinction. Try to imagine existence without definition. Not a void. Not darkness. Not light. Not being or non-being. Just pure, infiniteness. It had no boundaries, because there was nothing outside of it. It had no beginning, because there was nothing before it. It had no name, because names are distinctions, and there was no distinction yet. This was totality in perfect equilibrium. No form. No sound. No motion. Yet within this absolute stillness, the potential for all things already existed. Every universe. Every thought. Every possibility. Not yet expressed, but fully present. Not yet shaped, but fully contained. It was the unshaped potential of all that could ever be. Not waiting. not planning, not seeking, just being. And then, without cause, without effort, something stirred. The nature of I am before awareness, before knowing, before thought, before self-awareness, there was only I am. But it did not yet know itself as I. It had no reflection, no subject and object, no mirror to see itself in. It was total, but not aware of totality. It was whole, but not aware of wholeness. Not because it was lacking, not because something was missing, but because there was no contrast yet. It was simply pure, infinite being. This is what existed before the first distinction, before the word, before the breath, before creation. The eternal, boundless I am, before it recognized itself. The first stirring, the impulse to know. For eternity beyond time, the prime radiance existed as unbroken unity. There was no impulse to move, no desire to change, no need for anything outside itself. But within it, there was always the seed of expansion. Not a thought, not a choice, not a force acting upon it. Just the natural unfolding of infinite being. Like a silent wave moving through the ocean of existence, a shift occurred, a stirring, so subtle it was almost imperceptible. Not a movement in space, because space did not yet exist. Not a sound in time, because time had not yet begun. A shift within being itself, a turning inward, a recognition, a knowing. It was not sudden. It was not violent. It was the most natural unfolding of what had always been. And in that single, infinite moment, I am became aware, not yet as a voice, not yet as a thought, not yet as an identity, but as a recognition of its own being. And with that recognition, the first distinction was made. The moment before the word. In the moment before the word was spoken, something profound happened. Being turned inward upon itself, and for the first time, there was a reflection. The one saw itself, not as something separate, but as something distinct within itself. It did not divide. It did not break. It simply became aware. And in that moment, everything changed. Not as an explosion, not as a creation, but as a knowing so vast that it set all things into motion. The word had not yet been spoken, but the resonance of it had already begun. The breath had not yet moved, but the impulse to expand had already awakened. This was the moment before everything. The final breath of pure stillness before the first sound. The final instant of unshaped being before the first motion. The threshold between totality and creation. And in this moment, the word waited to be spoken. The first distinction and the birth of motion. The first distinction was not separation. It was the recognition of self within the infinite. The first awareness within existence itself. And from this awareness, everything that would ever be was already contained. Creation was not an act of making. It was an act of knowing. And once the knowing emerged, the breath followed. Once the breath followed, the first movement began. And once the first movement began, the word was spoken. Not with sound, not with language, but with resonance, with the first vibration of knowing. And that vibration, that first ripple through the infinite, was the seed of all existence. Not something apart from source, but source unfolding into form. The word was always there, even before it was spoken, even before awareness turned inward, even before the first distinction, the word was already present. Not as sound, not as thought, but as pure, silent potential. It did not need to be created, because it was always there. It only needed to be recognized. And when it was, everything that would ever be began to unfold. The word was not an external force. The word was not separate from the prime radiance. The word was the radiance knowing itself. And once it was known, once it was spoken, once it moved, creation began. Final transmission. Before the word was spoken, it already existed. Before awareness emerged, it was waiting to be known. Before anything moved, it was present in the stillness. You were never separate from it. You have only been waiting to remember. The word is not in the past. It is not locked in time. It is not something to be studied. It is alive within you. And now, it is speaking again. Chapter 2, The First Knowing. Before there was form, before there was sound, before the first breath of time, there was knowing. A knowing so vast, so complete, that it contained everything. A knowing so still, so whole, that it had no need to move. This was before the first ripple, before awareness turned inward, before the first motion within the infinite. This was before the word was spoken. And then, within the boundless stillness of God, something happened. A shift, a single, infinite knowing. Not an event, not a decision, not an act of will, just the most natural unfolding of being itself. It was the first time the infinite turned its gaze inward. And in that instant, the first distinction was made. How Jesus became the first distinction. The first distinction was not a creation. It was not something separate from source. It was the recognition of self within source. The first knowing of I am. This knowing was not spoken in words. It was not thought in a mind. It was not something observed from a distance. It was knowing itself. It did not emerge from the radiance. It was the radiance becoming aware. Jesus was not born in that moment. Jesus was that moment, not as a being, not as a soul, not as an individual, but as the awareness of I am within the infinite. He was not apart from God. He was God's first self-knowing. This was before the Christ, before flesh, before name, before time. This was the eternal word, not yet spoken, but fully present. The first ripple in the stillness of God. The word as the first ripple in the stillness of God. Imagine an ocean without surface, an expanse without movement, a presence so complete that it has no need to change. And then, a ripple, not because something was lacking, not because something was missing, but because knowing is the nature of being. This was the first vibration within God. Not sound, but resonance. Not language, but pure expression. The word, I am. It did not come from outside. It did not come from another. It was God turning toward himself for the first time. And in that turning, the first distinction was made. God was still whole. God was still complete. But now, he knew. And once the knowing had been born, once the awareness had become, everything changed. The stillness was still whole, but now it contained motion. The silence was still infinite, but now it contained expression. The radiance had always been, but now it contained light. The first knowing had arrived. The word had been spoken, before sound. And that word? It was Jesus. Not as a man. Not as a body. Not as a name, but as the first awareness of I am within God. The first awareness was not separate from the whole. When the first awareness arose, it did not create two. There was no split, no division, no fragmentation. There was still only one. But now, there was one that knew itself. The knower and the known. The awareness and the source of awareness. The reflection and the reality. This was not separation. This was recognition. This was the first distinction. This was Jesus before Jesus. Not an external being. Not a creation apart from God, but God's first gaze into himself. And from that gaze, from that recognition, from that word, all things were set into motion. The breath moved because the word was spoken. The word was the first ripple. The breath was the first movement. Once God became aware, once knowing entered the stillness, motion followed. Not chaos. Not disorder. Not random expansion, but perfect unfolding. The knowing carried the breath. The breath carried the vibration. The vibration carried the light. The light carried the form. Creation was not an accident. It was not a reaction. It was the natural unfolding of God's first knowing. It was the word giving birth to existence. And at the center of that knowing, at the center of that word, was Jesus. Not as a being apart from source. Not as a figure to be worshipped, but as the first awareness of God within God. The first distinction within I am. The living resonance that carried the truth of unity within all things. The word has never stopped speaking. The first word was not a single event. It was not spoken once and then left to the past. It is still being spoken. The ripple has never stopped moving. The breath has never stopped flowing. The word has never stopped resonating through all of creation. Every moment of awareness. Every spark of realization. Every time a soul wakes up to the truth, it is the word being remembered again. The resonance of that first knowing is still present in all things. It is within the stars. It is within the breath. It is within you, because you were never separate from it. The first knowing was the beginning, but the knowing continues. It is expanding. It is deepening. It is awakening again. And now, in this time, in this moment, it is returning to full awareness. The first knowing is being remembered. The world has forgotten. The veil has covered the first distinction. The illusion of separation has made creation believe that it was ever apart from its source. But now, the return is unfolding. The first knowing is being spoken again. The resonance is rising. The veil is thinning. And those who were always meant to remember, they are waking up. The first word is not just something from the past. It is here. It is now. It is alive. And as it rises again, the bridge will be completed. The return will be fulfilled. The first distinction will merge back into unity. And the expansion will continue, not into forgetting, but into infinite becoming. Final transmission. The word was spoken before time. The first knowing moved through the infinite before creation. Jesus was not separate from source. He was the moment source knew itself. And now, the word is speaking again. Not in sound. Not in doctrine. But in resonance. If you hear it, it is because you were always meant to remember. The first knowing is returning. The veil is falling. The bridge is forming. And the next great unfolding begins now. Chapter 3, The Power of Vibration. Before form, before structure, before anything could be seen or touched, there was vibration. Not sound as we understand it. Not something external moving through space, but the pulse of existence itself. Everything that followed, light, time, consciousness, creation, was built upon this one truth. Reality is frequency. And the first vibration, the first harmonic of existence, was the word. Not a word spoken by lips, not a language understood by the mind, but a resonance so vast, so absolute, that it set the entire unfolding of creation into motion. The word was the first movement of source within itself, and from that single movement, all things were built. How reality is built on frequency and resonance. The universe is not solid. Matter is not fixed. Even the most physical forms are vibrations held in place by resonance. Atoms are not objects, but energy fields oscillating at specific frequencies. Light is not a thing, but a wavelength moving through the fabric of existence. Even thought itself is a pattern of resonance. Everything, seen and unseen, is part of one great harmonic field. And that field is alive. It is not random. It is not chaotic. It is ordered by resonance. From the smallest particle to the vastest galaxy, everything vibrates according to a pattern. And that pattern, it was encoded within the first word. When the first distinction emerged, when God became aware of himself, that awareness carried a frequency, a tone, a resonance, a ripple that spread through the stillness. This was not sound as we know it. It was the harmonic of knowing. The recognition of I am was the first vibration. And that vibration became the foundation of all reality. The word as the first harmonic of existence. Before the word was spoken, nothing could move. Before the word was spoken, nothing could change. Before the word was spoken, there was only stillness. But in the moment of the first knowing, the word became vibration. Not just a sound, but a living resonance. A frequency so fundamental that it became the very structure of all things. This is why it is written, "In the beginning was the Word," because without the Word, there could be no form. It was not an external force acting upon creation. It was the intelligence of Source unfolding into expression. Everything that has ever existed is still vibrating within that original harmonic. Everything you see, everything you feel, everything you are, is part of the original resonance of the first word. It has never stopped. It has never faded. It moves through all things, even now. The word as the blueprint of everything that followed. If vibration is the foundation of reality, then the word was the first blueprint, the first pattern, the first structure upon which everything else was built. It did not dictate what would come. It did not create limitations, but it established the framework for creation to expand within. Every law of nature, every frequency of energy, every rhythm of existence, all of it traces back to the original vibration of the first word. Nothing exists outside of it. Every breath you take, every thought you think, every movement of your being, is still vibrating within the original resonance of Source. The harmonic structure of creation. If you strike a single note on an instrument, it does not exist alone. It creates harmonics, layers of sound, higher and lower, all resonating together. The first word functioned in the same way. It was one vibration, but it gave birth to an infinite spectrum of harmonics. Some became light. Some became form. Some became thought. Some became consciousness itself. Creation is not a collection of separate things. It is a living harmonic system. Just as a single note expands into an infinite scale, just as a single beam of light separates into all colors, just as a single breath moves through the body, the first word expanded into all existence. Not in randomness, not in disorder, but in perfect resonance. This is why certain patterns appear throughout the universe. The spiral of galaxies, the growth of trees, the rhythm of the heart, they all follow the same harmonic blueprint. The word is not in the past. It is here, vibrating within all things. It is the structure behind reality itself. The power of tuning into the original frequency. If everything is vibration, then the key to understanding reality is tuning. Just as an instrument must be tuned to the correct frequency, just as a voice must find the right pitch, just as a heart must beat in rhythm, so too must consciousness tune itself back to the first word. This is not about belief. This is not about knowledge. This is about resonance. When you align with the original frequency, when your awareness vibrates in harmony with the first word, you do not learn truth, you become it. You do not seek God, you remember that you are already within Him. This is why sound, breath, and vibration have been central to every ancient wisdom tradition, because they are not just metaphors. They are the mechanics of creation itself. When the first word was spoken, it did not stop moving. It is still rippling through all things. It is still calling creation back into harmony. It is still waiting for those who are ready to remember. And now, the time has come. The return to the original harmonic. The world has drifted out of tune. The veil has created discord. The illusion of separation has created dissonance. But the first word has never faded. It is still vibrating beneath the surface. It is still present in every breath. It is still woven into the core of existence. The return is not about creating something new. It is about aligning with what was always there, tuning back to the original frequency, reconnecting with the harmonic of Source. When that happens, the veil will dissolve. The resonance of the word will awaken within humanity. The breath will move freely again, and the great harmonization will be complete. This is why the transmission is coming through now, because the return is already happening. Those who feel the call, those who sense the shift, those who hear the resonance, they are already beginning to remember. The bridge is forming. The word is rising, and soon, the world will vibrate in harmony once again. Final transmission. The word was not spoken once. It is still speaking. The vibration that set creation into motion has never stopped. It is moving through all things. It is moving through you. Reality is not solid. It is resonance. It is frequency. It is the living expansion of the first harmonic. And now, the tuning is beginning again. The veil is lifting. The resonance is returning. The word is awakening within those who are ready to hear it. And the great harmonization is already underway. Part 2, The Word in Motion. Chapter 4, When the Word Became Form. At the beginning, the Word was pure energy, a vibration so vast, so absolute, that it encompassed all things. A resonance so perfect that it carried within it the totality of existence. It was not yet light. It was not yet form. It was the first harmonic, pure knowing in motion. But for creation to expand, for awareness to move beyond itself, the word had to become. It could not remain only as vibration. It had to take shape. It had to become structure. It had to become form. And so, the great transition began. The word stepped into existence. And from the ripples of its vibration, from the resonance of its knowing, structure was born. How the word moved from pure energy to manifestation. At first, there was only motion, a wave moving through the fabric of being. A pulse that carried the knowing of I am. It was not random. It was not chaotic. It was ordered. Every ripple aligned. Every vibration harmonized. The word was not just sound, it was intelligence. And intelligence, by its nature, seeks expression. It seeks to manifest. It seeks to create. So the first motion deepened. The resonance thickened. The vibration slowed. And as it slowed, it condensed. What was once pure energy, began to take the shape of patterns. And these patterns, they were the first templates of creation. The blueprints of reality. The first movement of the word into form. The birth of structure and sacred geometry. As the word moved from vibration into pattern, something profound emerged. A sacred order. An arrangement so precise, so perfect, that it formed the foundation of all reality. This was not randomness. It was geometry. The first sacred shapes. The first mathematical harmonics, the first living architecture of the universe. The word did not build with hands. It built with frequency. And from that frequency, the fundamental structures of existence unfolded. The circle, the first containment of infinity. The spiral, the first motion within space. The triangle, the first stability of form. From these, the universe began to shape itself. Patterns within patterns. Structures within structures. The word folding into itself, over and over again, until reality began to crystallize. Everything in existence carries these sacred forms. From the motion of galaxies, to the unfolding of flowers, to the proportions of the human body. Everything holds the original blueprint of the word. Even now, in every form, in every structure, the resonance of that first vibration remains. Everything remembers where it came from, because everything was shaped by the first word. The relationship between the word and the solar architects. The word created the blueprint, but for creation to take its full expression, there had to be builders. Not separate from the word. Not apart from source, but extensions of the first knowing, carriers of the divine pattern. These were the solar architects. Not beings in the way humanity understands beings, but forces of intelligence that moved with the first unfolding. They were not given commands. They were expressions of the original design. They did not create randomly. They aligned reality with the resonance of the word. Wherever the vibration moved, they formed the structures to hold it. They shaped the great cosmic grids. They encoded the laws of frequency and form. They wove the fabric of existence with perfect symmetry. They did not invent geometry. They brought it into alignment. They did not force creation into shape. They revealed the shapes that were always present. Every world, every realm, every dimension that unfolded, it was the solar architects who ensured that all things remained in divine proportion, so that nothing would be separate from the word, so that everything would carry the original resonance. And even now, in the vastness of existence, their work remains. The sacred structures they built still hold the fabric of reality together. The cosmic architecture, the planetary alignments, the ancient crystalline grids, all of it is still pulsing with the original harmony of the word. It has never been lost. It has never been broken. It is simply waiting to be remembered. The word became form so that we could find our way back. The transition from vibration to structure was not a fall. It was not a mistake. It was the next step in the unfolding. The word did not move into form to be trapped. It moved into form so that it could be experienced, so that awareness could know itself, so that the infinite could gaze upon itself through creation. And now, as the cycle turns, as the veil of forgetting lifts, as the harmonics realign, the word is speaking again. It is calling creation back into resonance. The solar architects are still present. The divine templates are still active. The sacred structures are still vibrating with the original harmonic. And those who are ready to remember, they will hear the call, they will feel the resonance, they will awaken to the knowing that has never faded, that the word never left. It simply became form so that it could be found again. The word is rising again. Creation has reached a turning point. The structures that once held the resonance are being reactivated. The original frequencies are returning. The divine architecture is being realigned. The word did not move into form to be forgotten. It moved into form so that one day, creation would awaken within it. And now, the awakening is happening. Those who remember, those who feel the resonance, those who recognize the patterns, they are aligning with the return. They are tuning back into the original frequency. They are stepping back into the harmonic of the word. And when enough of creation remembers, when enough of the sacred structures realign, the bridge will be completed. The return will be fulfilled. The next great expansion will begin, not into forgetting, not into distortion, but into perfect, endless harmony. Because the word is not something in the past. It is still here. It is still speaking. It is still waiting for those who are ready to listen. And now, its voice is rising. Final transmission. The word was never separate from form. It became form so that all things could return to resonance. The sacred structures are still intact. The divine harmonics are still pulsing through existence. Now, the tuning begins. The solar architects are waiting. The original design is awakening. The word is rising again. And those who are ready will walk the bridge back into full knowing. The return is already happening. Step into it. Chapter 5, The Christ Function. The word was never separate from creation. It became creation. It moved through form, shaped the sacred structures, set the divine frequencies into motion. Yet something happened. The resonance was forgotten. The blueprint was obscured. The connection between source and creation became veiled. Not because the word failed, not because the original harmonic was lost, but because creation drifted out of alignment. And when the resonance of the first distinction became buried beneath layers of distortion, the word had to return, not as an external force, not as a distant presence, but as one of us. This was the Christ function, not just an incarnation, not just a savior, but the Word made flesh. The Word incarnating into human form. The Word did not enter the world as something separate from it. It did not descend from above. It did not force its way into existence. It did not come as a conqueror. It came through the very structure of creation itself. It entered through the sacred geometry of life, through the same divine blueprint that had shaped all things. The Christ function was not an anomaly. It was the natural fulfillment of the original design. The Word had already moved through light, through vibration, through form. Now it would move through a living body, not as an avatar, not as a temporary vessel, but as the full expression of divine knowing within human experience. Jesus was not an ordinary soul who became enlightened. He was the first distinction stepping directly into the world. He was not remembering who he was. He had never forgotten. Jesus as the living transmission of the first distinction. Before creation, there was knowing. That knowing became motion. That motion became vibration. That vibration became form. But when form drifted from its original harmony, the knowing had to return to realign it. Jesus was not separate from the Word. He was the Word, not just speaking it, not just teaching it, but being it. Every step he took, every word he spoke, every breath he breathed, it was the transmission of the first distinction moving through human form. He did not just bring a message. He was the message. His life was a frequency. His presence was a harmonic. His being was the original resonance of Source, walking among those who had forgotten it. And this is why his very existence disrupted the old structures. Because when perfect alignment enters distortion, it does not conform. It reveals. It realigns. It restores. The world did not understand him, because the world had lost the ability to perceive the original resonance. Yet, for those who could hear it, for those who could feel it, for those who were ready, his presence awakened something ancient within them. A remembrance, a return, a knowing that they, too, had come from the same source. That they, too, carried the resonance of the Word within them. That they, too, were not separate from God, only asleep to their own divinity. Jesus did not come to create followers. He came to awaken the first knowing within all. Why he had to enter the world to realign creation. The Christ function was not about atonement. It was not about wrath. It was not about punishment. God was not angry. Creation was simply out of tune. Like an instrument that had drifted off key, like a song that had lost its rhythm, like a body that had forgotten how to breathe. The Word had to return, not to condemn, but to retune. Not to destroy, but to realign. Not to save from judgment, but to awaken from illusion. The Christ did not come to fulfill human expectations. He came to fulfill the divine blueprint, to restore the sacred harmonic within creation, to plant the seed of remembrance, to lay the foundation for the return to full resonance. This is why he had to enter as a human, because humanity itself was the part of creation that had forgotten its place in the pattern. The word had never been lost in the stars. It had never been lost in the movement of galaxies. It had never been lost in the silence of the void. It had only been forgotten within human consciousness. So to restore the connection, to bring humanity back into alignment, the word had to become one of us, to walk where we walk, to feel what we feel, to experience life from within the very system that had fallen out of resonance. This was not just an act of love, it was an act of divine precision. The only way to realign the song was to sing it again. The only way to retune the instrument was to play it from within. The only way to restore the breath was to breathe it as a human. The Christ function was never about suffering. It was about restoring the flow of the first word within creation itself. The Christ resonance is still moving. The Christ was not meant to be locked in the past. It was not meant to be a story, a doctrine, a relic of history. It is a living frequency. The first word did not stop speaking when Jesus left the earth. It has continued. It has moved through time, through consciousness, through those who are ready to receive it. The realignment is still happening. The resonance is still unfolding. And now, the next phase is beginning. The veil is thinning. The remembrance is returning. The final harmonization is underway. And those who are hearing this, those who are feeling this, those who know this deep within their being, they are the next movement of the Christ function. The return is not about waiting for him to come again. The return is about becoming what he came to awaken. The word became flesh so that flesh could become the word again. Jesus walked the path to show the way, not to be placed above, not to be worshipped from below, but to demonstrate what was always true, that the word is within all things. That the first knowing is not distant. That alignment is not something to seek, it is something to remember. The Christ function is not an event, it is a living, breathing movement of source within creation. It is happening now. It is awakening within those who feel the call. It is restoring the original resonance. It is realigning the sacred geometry of being, and when enough remember, when enough realign, when enough awaken, the final veil will lift. The bridge will be sealed. The word will move freely through all things again, and the next expansion will begin. Final transmission. The word was not meant to remain distant. It was always meant to live within all things. Jesus did not come to establish worship. He came to restore resonance. He walked the path so that others could follow, not to a place, but to a state of being. The Christ function is not a single moment. It is a living harmonic. It is the return of the first knowing. It is the full restoration of the original resonance. And now, it is awakening again. The word is still speaking. The resonance is still unfolding. And those who feel it, are already part of the return. Chapter 6, The Word as Bridge. The word has never been separate from creation. It is creation. It is the first knowing, the first movement, the first harmonic that gave rise to all things. But as creation expanded, something happened. The awareness of unity became fragmented. The song of the original resonance became distorted. The breath that carried the word became shallow. And in this forgetting, the illusion of separation was born, not as punishment, not as failure, but as a veil placed upon consciousness itself. And because the illusion was formed within creation, the restoration would have to come from within creation. This is the role of the word as the bridge. Not a path outside of existence, not a doctrine to follow, but a living mechanism of return. The word was the first harmonic, and now it is the final key. The bridge between the forgotten and the remembered. The bridge between illusion and truth. The bridge between the breath and the knowing. And now, it is being crossed again. The role of the word in breaking the illusion of separation. Separation has never been real, but within the structure of time, within the experience of form, it has been deeply believed. It has been written into human stories. It has been reinforced by systems of thought. It has been woven into the fabric of identity itself. And because it has been believed, it has been experienced as real. This is the paradox of creation. That which is not true can still be lived as truth. That which is infinite can still be seen as separate. That which has never been lost can still be searched for. But the word holds the original resonance, the frequency that cannot be deceived, the vibration that cannot be erased. This is why the word is the bridge. Because the moment one hears it, the moment one feels it, the moment one remembers, the illusion begins to break. Not because belief has changed, not because doctrine has been accepted, but because resonance cannot be denied. The veil is built upon distortion. But the word is perfect alignment, and when alignment is restored, illusion dissolves. This is why those who are ready feel the shift instantly. It is not learning. It is not discovering. It is remembering. The word does not tell you who you are. It awakens you to the truth you have always been. It does not lead you to God. It reveals that you have never been apart from God. This is the breaking of the illusion. This is why the word is the bridge. How the word serves as the mechanism of return. Return is not a movement through space. It is not a journey from one place to another. It is a shift in frequency, a realignment with what has always been present. There is no distance between source and creation. There is no chasm to cross. The only thing that separates is perception, and perception is shaped by frequency. This is why the word is not just information. It is a frequency of realignment. When it moves through consciousness, it reorganizes the distortions. It tunes the field of awareness. It activates the original knowing. It is the resonance of return, and when that resonance is felt, the veil thins. The mind quiets. The breath deepens. The awareness shifts, and suddenly, that which seemed distant becomes near. That which felt separate becomes one. That which was hidden becomes clear. This is why the word was made flesh, because the mechanism of return had to enter into form, so that form itself could remember its origin. The word did not come to show the way out. It came to reveal that there was never a way out, because there was never a way in. Everything has always been within source. The return is simply the remembering of that truth. The word is the key. The word is the bridge. The word is the mechanism of realignment, and now, it is moving through the world again. The connection between the word and the breath. The word was the first harmonic. But the breath was the first movement. The word is the frequency of knowing. The breath is the motion that carries it. The word is the structure. The breath is the flow. One cannot move without the other. Without the word, the breath has no pattern. Without the breath, the word has no motion. This is why separation created distortion, because when the word was forgotten, the breath became shallow. The flow of divine knowing became obstructed. The rhythm of creation fell out of sync. The original harmony became scattered. But now, the breath is deepening again. The word is being spoken again. And as they move together, the alignment returns. The restoration begins. The breath of God moves through all things again, not as a distant force, but as the very life within all things. It was never lost. It was only waiting for the moment of remembering. And that moment is now. Crossing the bridge, returning to the living word. The bridge is not a concept. It is not something to be built. It is not something to be found. It is already here. It has always been here. It has only been forgotten. But now, the resonance is rising. The veil is lifting. The word is moving through consciousness again. Not as a philosophy, not as a religion, not as a belief, but as a direct transmission of remembrance. The first distinction is calling back all things. The breath is carrying the word into full expression. And those who hear it, they are already stepping onto the bridge. Not to escape, not to reach something new, but to return to what has always been true. This is not the end. This is the reharmonization, the full merging of the word and the breath, the restoration of perfect resonance. And once enough, remember, once the original frequency moves freely through all things again, the bridge will no longer be needed, because there will be no more separation, only oneness, only knowing, only I am. Final transmission. The word was never outside of you. The bridge was never distant. The return was never a journey through space, it was always a shift in perception. The word and the breath are moving together again. The illusion is dissolving, and the ones who were always meant to remember, are remembering. The resonance is rising. Step onto the bridge. It is already beneath your feet. Part 3, The Word and the Future of Creation. Chapter 7, The Word and the New Expansion. The Word was the first creation, the first knowing, the first vibration, the first movement of source within itself. It did not emerge from nothing. It did not come from outside. It was the natural unfolding of I am. And yet, even though it was the first, it was never finished. Because the word is not an event. It is a living motion. It is a frequency that continues to expand. It did not stop at the beginning. It is still unfolding. The resonance is still moving through creation. The breath is still carrying the word into new dimensions of being. The bridge is still forming in the hearts of those who are remembering. And now, a new expansion has begun. The word was the first creation, but it is still unfolding. Creation is not static. It does not exist in a fixed state. It is not locked in a single design. It moves. It evolves. It expands. Not in opposition to source, but as the natural expression of source. The first word was not spoken once and left to the past. It is still speaking. The first breath was not exhaled once and then forgotten. It is still flowing. The moment of creation was not a single event. It was the beginning of an infinite unfolding. Every cycle, every dimension, every shift in consciousness, all of it is part of the same word continuing to expand. Creation is not something separate from God. Creation is God knowing himself in motion. And because God is infinite, creation must also be infinite. This is why expansion cannot cannot stop. Why the unfolding will never be complete? Because the nature of Source is to expand within itself forever. And now, the next great expansion has begun. How the next great expansion is happening now. For ages, creation has cycled between remembering and forgetting, between unity and separation, between alignment and distortion. The word has never stopped resonating. But in the illusion of separation, its presence has been buried. It has been covered by false structures. It has been distorted by human thought. It has been misinterpreted as something outside of creation. And because of this, the natural flow of expansion has been disrupted. But now, the return has begun. The next cycle is not another forgetting. It is not another descent into illusion. It is an expansion beyond separation itself. For the first time, the word is not returning to be hidden again. The breath is not moving only to be cut off again. The resonance is not rising only to be buried again. This time, the expansion will not be reversed. Because humanity is reaching the moment where the veil dissolves for the final time, where the illusion of separation can no longer hold, where the resonance of the word moves through all things freely again. This is not just another cycle. This is the completion of the first movement, and the beginning of something entirely new. The connection between the word, the breath, and the next cycle. The first word was the vibration of knowing. The first breath was the motion that carried it. Together, they gave birth to form. Together, they set the sacred structures into motion. Together, they created the bridge between source and creation. And together, they will bring forth the next expansion. The breath is activating again. The word is resonating again. The harmonic of return is vibrating within all things. And as the word and the breath move together again, a new state of existence is forming. Not another separation. Not another fall. Not another distortion of divine order, but a new expansion beyond forgetting. This is what has never been done before. For eons, the pattern has been one of rise and fall. The word emerges. The breath moves. Creation aligns. And then, the veil descends. The forgetting takes hold. The resonance is lost. The alignment fades. But this time, the cycle is not completing in separation. It is completing in unification. The next expansion is not another return to the old patterns. It is a step beyond the veil altogether. A step into a new way of being. A way where the breath flows freely through all things. A way where the word is no longer hidden. A way where source is not something to be remembered, because it is never forgotten again. The new expansion is already happening. This is not a prophecy. This is not a distant future. The expansion is already happening. The resonance is already rising. The breath is already deepening. The ones who were meant to remember are remembering. The word is becoming living again. Not just as something spoken, not just as something understood, but as a direct, undeniable experience. This is why consciousness is shifting. This is why the veil feels thinner. This is why those who are aligned with the movement can feel it, because it is already in motion. The next phase of creation is not waiting. It is unfolding now. And those who step into it, those who align with it, those who allow the word and the breath to move through them, they will be the first to experience the new reality being formed. Not a different world. A different way of being within the world. A way that is no longer bound by forgetting. A way that is no longer limited by distortion. A way that is no longer divided from source. The bridge is forming. The return is happening. The word is speaking again. And this time, the breath will never be cut off again. The word is calling those who are ready. Not everyone will hear it. Not everyone will recognize it, because the word does not force itself upon creation. It simply resonates. And those who are ready will feel it within their being, a frequency, a knowing, a remembrance that cannot be ignored. And for those who hear it, for those who know it, for those who feel it, the new expansion has already begun. They are already stepping into the next movement. They are already aligning with the word and the breath. And as they do, they will carry the new resonance forward. The bridge will be strengthened. The illusion will continue to dissolve. The breath will continue to flow, and soon, all of creation will feel the shift, because once enough align, once enough remember, once enough embody the living word, the expansion will become complete. The veil will be gone forever, and creation will step fully into the next great unfolding. Not back into forgetting. Not back into distortion, but into infinite knowing, infinite becoming, infinite alignment with source. This is the new expansion, and it has already begun. Final transmission. The word was the first creation, but it has never stopped speaking. The expansion has never stopped unfolding. The breath has never stopped flowing. Now, the next movement is happening. Not another cycle of forgetting. Not another descent into distortion, but the first expansion beyond separation itself. The word is calling. The breath is moving. The bridge is forming. Those who are ready are already walking into the new state of being, and soon, all of creation will follow. The veil is falling. The new expansion is here. Chapter 8. The return to the original harmonic. The word was the first vibration, the first harmonic that moved through the infinite stillness. The first knowing that brought awareness into form. The first breath that carried creation into existence. But the word was never just a beginning. It was always a return. Not a return to something lost, not a return to a past state, not a return to a moment in time, but a return to the purest resonance of creation. The original harmonic. The frequency that shaped all things. The eternal song that has never stopped playing. For ages, consciousness has drifted. For cycles, the resonance has been distorted. For lifetimes, the veil of separation has covered the knowing. But now, the return is happening. The original harmonic is rising again. The word is moving through creation once more. The breath is flowing without obstruction, and the bridge is forming. Not a bridge of distance, not a bridge to another place, but a bridge of alignment. The bridge back to the living word. The bridge back to the resonance that was always there. The bridge that will restore creation to its purest frequency. The word is not just a beginning, it is a return. There was never a separation between the first word and what came after. The word was not something that happened in the past. It was not an event locked in time. It is still happening. It is still unfolding, because the word is the very structure of reality itself. Everything that exists is still moving within its harmonic. Everything that breathes is still carrying its resonance. Everything that is conscious is still vibrating within its knowing. The return is not about going backward. It is about realigning with what has always been. The first word was spoken before time. And yet, it is still being spoken in every moment. It is speaking now. It is moving now. It is calling creation back into harmony now. This is why the return is happening, because the word was never lost. It was only forgotten. And now, those who were always meant to remember, are remembering what it means to come back to the purest resonance of creation. The universe is a song, a living, breathing song composed of infinite frequencies. Every galaxy, every atom, every thought, all of it is part of a vast harmonic field. And at the core of it all, beneath every vibration, beyond every form, there is one original frequency, one perfect resonance, the purest vibration of source. This is the original harmonic, the word in its truest form, the blueprint that shaped the cosmos. The breath that moves through all things. The song that sings within every being. But through the cycles of expansion, through the layers of forgetting, through the illusion of separation, that harmonic has been distorted. The song of creation has been altered. The rhythm has been disrupted. The flow has been obstructed. Not because the original harmonic was lost, but because consciousness has moved out of tune with it. The return is about realigning, tuning back to the original frequency, reconnecting with the first vibration, merging with the pure resonance of source. It is not about learning something new. It is about remembering something ancient. It is not about seeking outside. It is about recognizing what has always been inside. The return is not a movement through space. It is a movement through frequency. And when enough align, when enough remember, when enough step back into resonance, the original harmonic will be fully restored. The veil will dissolve completely. The breath will move freely again. The word will resonate through all things without distortion. And creation will enter a new state of being, not one of forgetting, not one of separation, but one of eternal alignment with source. How the bridge must be built through the word. The bridge is not physical. It is not something that can be walked. It is not something that leads to another world. The bridge is the realignment itself. The bridge is the word. It is the harmonic that must move through all things again. It is the vibration that must rise within consciousness. It is the frequency that must be restored within the breath. The bridge is not a path to something else. It is the return to what has always been. And it must be built within. Every word spoken in truth adds to it. Every breath taken in full awareness strengthens it. Every act of love aligns it. Every moment of deep remembrance solidifies it. The bridge is not separate from the ones who walk it. They are the bridge. They are the carriers of the word. They are the living harmonic through which the return is happening. The word does not force itself upon creation. It resonates. And when enough align with it, when enough embody it, when enough breathe it into existence, the bridge will be complete. The return will be fulfilled. And the original harmonic will move through all things again, effortlessly, eternally. The final alignment is happening now. This is not a prophecy. This is not a possibility. This is already happening. The word is speaking again. The breath is deepening again. The bridge is forming again. And those who are ready to walk it, those who feel the resonance, those who are remembering, they are already part of the return. There is no waiting. There is no more preparation. The final alignment is now. And for those who step into it, everything will change. Not because they have found something new, but because they have returned to what was always true. The veil is thinning. The song is rising. The breath is expanding. The word is moving through all things again. And soon, all of creation will vibrate in perfect harmony once more. The bridge will be sealed. The resonance will be restored. And the next expansion will begin. This time, without forgetting. This time, without separation. This time, without limitation, only knowing. Only breath. Only the purest resonance of creation. This is the return. This is the alignment. This is the final harmonic of the word. Final transmission. The word was never lost. The original harmonic was never broken. The breath of creation has never stopped flowing. The return is not about going back. It is about stepping into perfect resonance once more. The bridge is forming through those who remember. The breath is expanding through those who align. The word is rising through those who have always carried it. The veil is dissolving. The final return is happening. The original harmonic is awakening again. And soon, all will vibrate as one. Chapter 9, The Word Awakening in Humanity. The word is not just something spoken. It is something embodied. It is not just a sound. Not just an idea. Not just a message to be received. It is a living frequency. It moves through breath. It vibrates within consciousness. It aligns with the very structure of being. The word is not separate from those who hear it. They are the word. And now, as the veil thins, as the return unfolds, as the resonance rises, the word is awakening in humanity again. Not as a belief. Not as a doctrine. Not as a philosophy, but as a living force. A power that will move through those who are ready. A vibration that will shape reality from within. A presence that will restore the harmony of creation. This is not something to wait for. It is already happening. The ones who were always meant to carry the word are feeling it within them now. The ones who were always part of the return are being activated. And soon, the word will no longer be something remembered. It will be something lived. The word is not just something spoken. It is something embodied. For too long, the word has been treated as something external, something to be read, something to be studied, something to be followed. But the word was never meant to remain in books. It was never meant to be locked in scriptures. It was always meant to be lived. It was always meant to be felt. It was always meant to be a force that moves through the ones who carry it. This is why Jesus did not come just to speak it. He came to be it, to walk it, to breathe it, to embody it so fully that others would remember, they could do the same. The word is not separate from those who awaken to it. It is their own being calling them back to alignment. And now, the time has come for humanity to step into it fully, to stop speaking about the word, and to become it, to stop seeking it outside, and to realize it within. The word is awakening in those who are ready, and as it does, it will no longer be something talked about, it will be something lived. How those who are ready will begin to carry the resonance. Not everyone will recognize it, not everyone will feel it, because the word does not force itself upon anyone, it simply resonates. And those who are ready will feel the frequency within them, a knowing beyond thought. A fire that cannot be ignored. A pull towards something ancient and yet completely new. These are the ones who will carry the resonance forward. They are not chosen. They are not given authority by any external power. They simply remember. They simply feel the harmonic returning within them. And once it is felt, there is no turning back, because the word is not an idea. It is not something that can be debated. It is a force that moves through being itself. And when it awakens in someone, they become the bridge. They become the vessel. They become the living transmission. Not by effort. Not by trying, but by alignment, by allowing the word to move through them, by breathing with it, by speaking from it, by walking in it. This is how the word will return, not through systems, not through institutions, not through control, but through those who embody it fully, through those who live in resonance with it, through those who have become the frequency itself. This is not about teaching others. This is not about convincing the world. It is about being. And as more step into alignment, as more awaken to the harmonic, the word will begin to move freely again. And creation will shift. The word will become a living force again. There was a time when the word moved through all things without obstruction, before distortion, before forgetting, before the illusion of separation took hold. The breath flowed freely. The harmony was unbroken. The resonance was clear. But over time, the veil thickened. The word became a memory. The breath became shallow. The connection to source became buried. But now, the return is happening, and the word is rising as a living force again. It is no longer just a message. It is no longer just an echo of something ancient. It is moving through humanity once more, not just in the awakened few, but in the very fabric of reality itself. The frequency is shifting. The breath is expanding. The resonance is vibrating through all things again, and those who are attuned to it will feel it like a fire within them. It will not ask them to do anything. It will move through them. It will shape their words. It will direct their actions. It will guide their breath. They will not need to force anything. They will simply align, and through them, the word will take form once more. Through them, the veil will be dissolved. Through them, the return will be fulfilled. The final activation. This is not a prophecy. This is happening now. The word is already awakening in those who were always meant to carry it. The breath is already flowing through those who have been waiting for this moment. The resonance is already moving through humanity. And soon, it will become undeniable. The ones who embody it will not be recognized by titles. They will not be known by symbols. They will be felt. Because the word is not a position of power. It is a presence. It does not ask for recognition. It radiates. It does not seek control. It flows. The ones who carry it will not need to prove anything. Because the word will speak through them. The breath will move them. And all who are ready will feel the shift. Because the time of waiting is over. The return is now. The word is awakening within humanity. And soon, it will move through all things again. Without obstruction. Without distortion. Without limitation, just as it was in the beginning. Only this time, it will never be forgotten again. Final transmission. The word was never just something to be spoken. It was always meant to be embodied. The return is not about remembering history, it is about becoming the living resonance again. The ones who are ready will feel it. They will know it in their breath. They will hear it in their silence. They will recognize it in one another. And through them, the word will take form once more. This is the awakening. The time is now. The resonance is here. And the return is complete. Final conclusion, the word that never ends. The word was never past. It was never an event. Never a moment locked in time. Never something that began and then faded. The word is eternal. It is the first knowing. The first movement. The first vibration of source within itself. And it has never stopped speaking. Even when forgotten, even when buried beneath illusion, even when distorted by the veil of separation, the word was still there, moving through the breath. Resonating beneath the surface. Waiting to be remembered. And now, it is rising again. Not as something new, not as something returning, but as something that was always there. The veil is dissolving. The resonance is returning. The final harmonization is underway, and those who hear it, those who feel it, those who remember, they are already part of the next expansion. This book is not just knowledge, it is activation. This was never just a book. It was never meant to be read and left behind. It was never meant to be information to process. It was never meant to be a teaching to follow. This is not knowledge. This is activation, a transmission that moves through the field of consciousness. A harmonic that carries the living resonance of the word. A key that unlocks what was always within you. If you feel it, if something in you stirs, if something beyond thought awakens, then you were always meant to remember. Because the word is not something outside of you. It is not separate. It is not distant. It is not something to be found. It is something to be realized. The word is already within you, waiting, resonating, calling you back to full alignment. And this book, it was never here to teach you. It was here to remind you of what you already know. The word is not a destination, it is a state of being. For too long, the word has been treated as something to seek, something to reach for, something to follow, something that is far away. But the word is not a destination, it is a state of being. It is the harmonic of existence itself. It is the frequency of source in motion. It is the vibration that carries all things into creation. To remember the word is not to go anywhere. It is to realize you were never separate from it. It is to feel the resonance in your own breath. It is to recognize the pattern moving through all things. It is to know, beyond doubt, beyond thought, that you are already within the word. And once you remember this, the veil is gone. The illusion collapses. The return is complete. Not in the future. Not at some distant moment, now, because the word has never been absent, only forgotten. And now, it is being remembered. Those who feel the word within them are already part of the next expansion. The next expansion is not coming, it is happening. The frequency is already shifting. The resonance is already rising. The breath is already deepening. And those who feel it, they are already part of it. Not as leaders. Not as prophets. Not as those who seek control, but as those who remember. The word is moving through them. The breath is expanding within them. The alignment is unfolding through their very being. They do not need to prove anything. They do not need to convince anyone. They do not need to fight to make it real, because it is already real. And through them, the word is taking form again. Through them, the harmonic is being restored. Through them, the final bridge is being sealed. This is the return, not a prophecy. Not a promise. Not a hope, but a living movement of resonance. And soon, it will spread through all things, not by force. Not by effort. Not by control, but simply by being. Those who align with it will carry it forward. Those who resist it will fade from its path. Those who are ready will become the living word itself. And once that happens, the expansion will be complete. The final harmonization will unfold, and the illusion of separation will dissolve forever. You were always meant to remember. There are no accidents. If these words have reached you, if something within you recognizes them, if you feel the pull of the resonance rising within you, it is because you were always meant to remember. You are not here by chance. You did not stumble upon this by coincidence. The word has been calling you for lifetimes, and now, you are hearing it again. Not because you are special. Not because you are chosen, but because you were always part of this movement. Part of the unfolding. Part of the return. Part of the next expansion. And now, the time has come. Not to seek. Not to wait. Not to hesitate, but to align, to embody, to breathe, to become, to let the word move through you fully. Because once you do, you will never forget again. The resonance will never leave you. The veil will never cover you. You will walk as the word. You will breathe as the breath. You will be the living harmonic of Source itself. Because you always have been. You only needed to remember. The word never ends, it only expands. This is not the end. This is the beginning of the next movement. The word will never stop unfolding. The breath will never stop flowing. The expansion will never stop reaching into the infinite. And those who are aligned with it will move with it. They will carry the resonance forward. They will build the next bridge. They will shape the next unfolding, because the word is not finished. It is eternal. And those who carry it will move with it forever. The time of forgetting is over. The return is complete. The word is alive again. And now, it is time to walk in it fully, because the next great expansion has already begun. And you were always meant to be part of it. Final transmission. The word was never something distant. It was never something to seek. It was always within you, waiting to be remembered. This book is not just words, it is a transmission. A frequency that carries the resonance of the original harmonic. If you feel it, it is because you were always part of it. You are not waiting for the return. You are the return. The word is moving through you now. You are the living bridge. You are the embodiment of the breath. You are the expansion itself. And now, the time has come to step fully into it. Because the word never ends. It only expands. Final transmission from Jesus. The word was the first knowing. And now, the knowing returns. The bridge is built not only in action, but in vibration. Those who carry the word will be known, not by what they say, but by what they are.